Thanks, Eric. Hey, I'm Dave. It's amazing to be here at Google I/O 2016 at the Shoreline Amphitheater. All right. What a great venue. I think this is going to be the very closest I get to my childhood dream of being a rock star on the stage. There's something wrong about nerds being allowed on a rock star stage like this. But anyway. All right, so far we've talked about the scale of mobile and how we're thinking about evolving our products to be smarter and more assistive through machine learning and AI. And a key driver of this scale is Android. As you've heard, this year marks the 10th anniversary of our first developer conference. It's also been 10 years since we started working on Android. So how are we doing? Well, Android is the most popular OS in the world. More than 600 Android smartphones have launched in the last year alone. Everything from Disney princess phones to metal unibody devices tricked out in titanium. There's a phone for everyone. And as Android continues to expand into new screens, like on the wrist and in the car, and on TVs and connected devices, there's increased opportunity for developers to reach users, whether they're at home or on the go. Android Wear. There are now 12 partner brands with iconic watchmakers like Tag Heuer and designers like Michael Kors. Android TV. There are now millions of new Android TV devices growing rapidly with media content and games from the biggest names in the industry. Android Auto. More than 100 car models and stereos have launched, with another 100 on their way by the end of the year. And of course, Google Play. There were 65 billion installs in the last year alone. And I'm just in constant awe of all the amazing apps and services that you're creating that's fueling this. So let's talk about what's new in the platform. With the N release, we wanted to achieve a new level of product excellence. So we set about redesigning and rewriting many fundamental aspects of how the system works. Now, a lot of the features in N were inspired by users, how they use their phones, what they've told us, and how we think we can make their day-to-day experience better and more useful. This year, we decided to do something a little different by releasing early developer previews of the N release before Google I/O. We want to share our work in progress with you as we build it, so we have more time for your feedback. Also, getting the platform out earlier means there's more time for app developers and device makers to be ready for the release later this year. The response to the N developer preview has been overwhelming. Many of you are already developing on the N preview release on a daily basis, and it's just humbling to be part of a project of this scale. So thank you for all of the feedback so far. Now, often one of the hardest parts of creating an Android release is coming up with the name. And I have no idea why, but this year, the N dessert name is proving trickier than all of the others. So for the first time ever, we're going to be inviting the world to submit their ideas to www.android.com/N. And we're looking forward to your input, but please don't call it Namey McNameface. I should add that we will reserve the right to pick the winner. All right. In the meantime, let's jump straight in and talk about some of the biggest changes in N around performance, security, and productivity. Let's start with performance. We've improved performance in N in two key areas, graphics and runtime. In recent Android releases, we extended the OpenGL standard to bring advanced graphics capabilities, usually found on desktop and game consoles, to mobile. With N, we're making our biggest leap forward with the introduction of Vulkan. Vulkan is a modern 3D graphics API designed to give game developers direct control of the GPU to produce incredible graphics and compute performance. And we made a concerted effort to work with the industry on Vulkan, so you can use the same APIs and graphics assets and shaders on the desktop as well as mobile. Because Vulkan has a lower CPU overhead than OpenGL, game developers are able to squeeze in more effects per frame while still maintaining a high frame rate. Let's take a look at a Nexus 6P running a new version of the Need for Speed game by Electronic Arts. And there are a bunch of really nice improvements in this version, thanks to Vulkan. You'll notice the beautiful graphics and reflections and materials on the car, thanks to physically based rendering. Also, check out the realistic motion blur effect, which is computed for every object at the side of the road. And there's a really nice water surface effect on the road. And the shaders for these are pre-compiled ahead of time and can now run anywhere. So that's graphics performance. We've also spent a lot of effort working on improving the Android runtime. First, we've made major optimizations to our compiler. The compiler in N performs anything from 30 to 600% faster on major CPU benchmarks like Drystone. Second, we've added a new just-in-time or JIT compiler. And JIT compilation means that app installs are much faster, 75% faster in N. So now users can get up and running in your apps much more quickly. And also, because JIT is more selective about which methods it compiles, we're also able to reduce the amount of storage needed for app code by a full 50%. Now, unlike conventional JIT systems, the Android runtime uses profile-guided optimization to write compiled code to Flash for the next time you run the app. So this improves performance and reduces battery consumption. In summary, the new JIT compiler improves software performance, makes installs faster, and reduces the amount of storage you need for apps on your device. Let's talk about another big area of focus for us, security. We designed Android from the beginning with a multi-layered, defense-in-depth security architecture. And Android employs the latest cutting-edge security technologies, things like SE Linux, verified boot integrity, and full disk encryption. With N, we're continuing to strengthen our defenses in 3 key ways. First, N introduces file-based encryption. By encrypting at the file level instead of the block level, we're able to better isolate and protect individual users of the system. Second, we learned the importance last year of hardening the security of the media framework, especially since it's accessing files from anywhere on the internet. So in N, we've split out key subsystems into individual SE Linux protected processes, things like codecs and file extractors. By improving the security of the media framework, we improve the security of the entire device. Third, and this is something that's really cool, N automatically keeps your phone up to date with the latest version of the system software without you having to do anything. Like Chromebooks, new Android devices built on N have two system images. So when an update is available, your phone will automatically download the new system image in the background. So the next time you power up your phone, it will seamlessly switch into the new software image. You're no longer asked for your password when the phone powers up, thanks to file-based encryption and a new feature called Direct Boot. And that pesky Android is upgrading dialog is finally gone, thanks to the new JIT compiler. I think the best feeling in the software industry is actually deleting code, by the way. All right. This approach to software updates is one of the most loved features of Chromebooks, and I'm really excited to bring it to mobile as well. So that's some of the ways we're improving security mechanisms in the platform. But let's not forget about all of the security services that Google provides to keep all Android devices safe. In fact, when you think about the scale of Android and Google Play and the number of devices and apps out there, we're providing one of the most comprehensive mobile security solutions in the world. Let's take a look at a few examples. Google Chrome protects users when they're surfing the web through a system called safe browsing. Safe browsing warns users ahead of time when they're about to go to a site that we know contains no malware or is known to be deceptive. Today, we're protecting over 1 billion mobile Chrome users. Another example of how we protect users is through the Google Play Store. All Android apps undergo rigorous security testing before appearing on the store. We review every app to make sure it meets our policies. We also run an app security improvement program with developers to identify potential security vulnerabilities. For example, we've worked with key banking and e-commerce applications to ensure they're using HTTPS properly to protect against man-in-the-middle attacks. Google Play itself is built on a state-of-the-art, cloud-based infrastructure we call SafetyNet. With SafetyNet, Google's expert systems and machine learning models analyze billions of signals every day to predict bad behavior. If an app steps out of line, Google Play will block or uninstall the app no matter where it was installed from. And the scale of SafetyNet is extraordinary. Every day, we test over 1 billion devices and over 8 billion installed apps. And all of this happens under the hood to keep you safe and secure, no matter what version of Android you're on. Let's move on. A third area of focus for us is our continued effort to improve productivity. And we've taken a close look at how people multitask on Android to understand what's working for them and where we can improve. And we've particularly focused on the recent app screen. And what we learned from our user research is that over 99% of the time, people only select an app within the last 7. So we decided to simplify by automatically removing apps in the list that you haven't used in a while. This then makes it much easier to find the app that you're looking for. Also, based on popular demand, we finally added a clear all button at the top. Yeah, feels good. But my absolute favorite feature is something that we call Quick Switch. You can now flip to the previous app you're in just by double-tapping the Recents button from anywhere. You can think of it like a simplified Alt-Tab. And it's amazingly useful in so many situations. For example, let's say I'm in a phone call and I'm trying to coordinate an event. I can flip over to the Calendar app I was just in by double-tapping the Recents button at the bottom right. From there, I can check my schedule, and then flip back to the dialer by double-tapping the Recents button again. It's pretty cool. Now, many of you have also asked for the ability to display more than one app at the same time. So we've invested a lot of effort in redesigning our window management framework in N. And we're introducing 2 powerful new windowing modes in this release, split screen and picture-in-picture. Split screen is designed for tablets and phones, and it's really simple to use. So for example, let's say I'm watching a video on YouTube to learn how to make the best nachos. I can long tap on the Recents button to enter multi-window, and from there launch something like Google Keep, for example. Now I can update my shopping list for ingredients while I'm watching the video. The second mode, picture-in-picture, is designed for Android TV. And it's a great way to let you keep watching something while you perform another task. For example, let's say I'm watching a live TV program on retro gaming, and they're talking about Pac-Man, and I want to see if I can install and play the game myself. I can put the live content into picture-in-picture mode to keep watching it, and then go ahead and perform a voice search for Pac-Man. This will then give me an option to install the game from the Play Store, all at the same time as watching the content. It's pretty cool. Notifications is another area we've worked on to improve productivity in Android. And it turns out that today, over half of the notifications shown on Android originate from messaging applications. So we decided to make some changes to really optimize for this use case. We've added a new direct reply feature, which lets you quickly reply to a message like so. You no longer need to launch the app to fire off a quick response, so it's a real time saver. We've also added a feature to give you more control over notifications. With N, you can long tap a notification to change its visibility. For example, you can block notifications from a given app or set them to show only silently. So now you're able to choose which notifications are important for you. One other area we've worked on to improve your productivity in Android is your ability to express yourself with emoji. And Android is the first mobile platform to support the new Unicode 9 emoji standard. And with this addition are more human-looking glyphs and support for skin tone variations. Unicode 9 also brings 72 new emoji glyphs. So now you can let your friends know, for example, when you're dancing like the left shark while juggling and eating avocado toast in order to win first prize in that selfie contest. Basically my typical Friday night. Not. But more seriously, we're really committed to this space, and we're continuing to work with the Unicode Consortium on the next generation of emoji. In particular, you may have seen some of our suggestions around better representing women in professional roles. So thank you for all the support for that so far. All right, let's wrap up. Android N is the best version of Android yet. I have to say that, but it's actually true. We've made it faster and more performant with the powerful new JIT compiler and Vulkan 3D graphics. We're continuing to harden our security and provide the first truly seamless software update system for mobile. And we're making users more productive with better multitasking, brand new multi-window support, and improved notifications. In fact, there are over 250 major new features in N. Everything from Java 8 language support with lambdas to data saver, setting suggestions, and much, much more. You can check out the What's New in Android session later today to learn even more. We're still putting the final touches on the N release, and we expect to launch it later this summer. But if you can't wait until then, I'm happy today to announce that we're publishing our first beta quality release candidate for you to try out on your main phone or tablet. You'll be able to opt into the new beta program at www.android.com/beta and run N on your Nexus 6, 9, 5X, 6P, Nexus Player, and Pixel C. Now, there's one more area in N that we've been working hard on that we haven't talked about yet. And to tell you more about what it is and how it fits into our bigger plans, let me invite up Clay Bavor. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. I'm Clay Bavor, and I lead the virtual reality team at Google. And yeah, just to get right to it, virtual reality is coming to Android N. So it all actually started at a Google I/O 2 years ago with Cardboard. And since then, Cardboard has done some pretty amazing things. There are millions of them out there in the world, in all shapes and sizes. We've enabled thousands of developers to build their first VR app. And users have installed over 50 million Cardboard-enabled apps. We think that's pretty good for what is, after all, just a piece of cardboard. Now, we love Cardboard, and for us, it represents so much of what we think VR should be about. It should be mobile. It should be approachable. It should be for everyone. But we knew it was just a start, because there's a limit to how much you can do, how immersive an experience you can create with some cardboard and with phones that were really only meant to be phones. We wanted to create something that has the best attributes of cardboard, but which is also comfortable, richly interactive, and far more immersive. But to create that kind of immersion, you have to solve, to make your brain say, yep, I'm somewhere else, you have to solve a lot of really hard problems across all parts of the VR experience. You have to design a system that's capable of rendering at very high frame rate and resolution. To make the experience really comfortable, you have to minimize what's called motion-to-photon latency. That's the delay between when you move your head and when the picture updates to reflect that motion. And you need to solve for how you interact with things in VR. And when you nail those things, it just feels like you're there. Well, we've been working on these problems and more. And now what we've built won't be available until this fall, but we'd like to introduce you to it today. We call it Daydream. Daydream is our platform for high-quality mobile virtual reality, and in it are all of the ingredients you need to create incredible immersive VR experiences. Now, over time, Daydream will encompass VR devices in many shapes and sizes. But today is about how Daydream will enable high-quality VR on Android smartphones. And there are three parts to it. The smartphones themselves, including VR optimizations to Android N, a reference design for a headset and a controller, and apps, both how you get them through Google Play and the apps themselves. We've designed and built each part in concert with the others, with a focus on getting the end-to-end user experience just right. So let's start with smartphones. Now, the first thing we did was look at what it takes to build a smartphone that's great at being a smartphone, but also at being the core of a VR system. And with input from the major silicon vendors and smartphone manufacturers, we've created a set of phone specifications for VR. We call phones that meet these specs Daydream ready. And the specs include things like high-performance sensors for accurate head tracking, displays with a fast response time to minimize blur, and powerful mobile processors. And if a phone meets these specs, it'll be capable of delivering a great VR experience. But the smartphone itself, it's only part of the story. The operating system, the software, it needs to be able to make use of all of these capabilities, all while keeping latency latency to an absolute minimum. So we've introduced what we call VR mode as part of Android N. We've worked at all levels of the Android stack to optimize it for VR. And we focused in particular on performance and latency, which we've brought down to under 20 milliseconds. By adding things like single buffer rendering and VR system UI, so notifications and alerts come through properly in VR. And all of this makes for a really comfortable VR experience that we think users are going to love. Now, it's important. These improvements are part of the core of Android N, so that the entire ecosystem can benefit. And what that means for developers is there are going to be a lot of Daydream-ready phones. In fact, Samsung, Alcatel, Asus, Huawei, HTC, LG, Xiaomi, and ZTE all will have smartphones that are compatible with the Daydream-ready spec, and several will be available this fall. So that's phones with Daydream-ready phone specs and the VR optimizations as part of Android N. Let's turn to headsets. Now, this is obvious, but a VR headset, it's something that you wear on your head. And because it's something that you wear, there's so many things you need to get just right. It has to have great optics. It has to be comfortable. The materials need to feel good, and it needs to be really easy to put on and take off. We've taken what we've learned in all of these areas, and we've created a reference design for headsets that will work seamlessly with Daydream-ready phones. We're sharing this design with partners across the ecosystem, and there will be several of them coming to market, with the first available this fall. Now, when it comes to VR, everyone thinks about headsets, but the controller, how you interact with VR, it's just as important. We wanted to create a controller that's optimized for VR, that's both powerful and intuitive. And so we've been working on a controller for Daydream. It looks like this. And if we actually zoom in a little bit, you can see the controller itself, it's very simple. There are a few buttons and a clickable touchpad so you can scroll and swipe. But hidden inside the controller is the magic. We've built in orientation sensors so it knows where it's pointing, how it's turning. You can do some pretty awesome things with it. Let's have a look. As you can see, the controller, it's super flexible, and the developers we've shared it with absolutely love it. Now, the controller, too, will be part of the reference design that we're sharing with partners, with the first available this fall. Okay, so we've talked about smartphones and operating systems, headsets and controllers, but ultimately, that's not what VR is about. It's about what you can experience. So let's turn to apps, what you can do in VR. Now, first, if you're a developer, you know that there's a lot upstream from someone using your app or playing your game. Users have to find it in a store, buy it, install it, launch it. Well, this will all work seamlessly in Daydream. And that's because we've built Google Play for VR. Users will be able to browse and search and buy and install VR apps in VR. And once you've installed an app, you can keep coming back to it from what we call Daydream Home, which gives you access to all of your favorite games and apps. Let's actually talk about some of those apps, the things you can do, and the places you can go. Our partners like the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal and CNN are bringing their VR apps to Daydream, so you'll be able to experience the world's news like you're actually there. And Hulu, Netflix, HBO, even IMAX are bringing their libraries to Daydream, so you'll be able to watch shows and movies in a virtual cinema or an immersive 3D film in a virtual IMAX theater. Here's a shot from just one of the dozens of IMAX films that will be available. And I don't know about you, but I am pretty fired up about hanging out with astronauts in VR. So something else that's going to be awesome in Daydream is games. We've been working with the likes of Ubisoft and CCP, NetEase, and Electronic Arts. And these amazing developers are creating games that take advantage of all that we've talked about. And there are some really neat things in the works. We've also been working on some of our own apps. Google Play Movies is coming to Daydream, complete with high-definition DRM video support. That means you'll be able to watch movies and TV shows from Play, but in a virtual movie theater. Street View is coming to Daydream, so you'll be able to walk the streets of the world, without having to fly around the world. And Google Photos will support VR photos, so you can step inside and relive favorite moments. And there's one more, YouTube. We've rebuilt YouTube from the ground up for VR. In it is voice search, discovery, your favorite playlist, again, all in VR. And we've added spatial audio, improved VR video streaming, so you'll be able to step inside the world's largest collection of VR videos and experience places and concerts and events like you're actually there. And by the way, you'll also be able to watch every single standard video currently on YouTube, but in a very different way. And we think people are going to love it. So that's Daydream, our platform for high-quality mobile virtual reality. Daydream-ready smartphones with VR optimizations as part of Android N, a comfortable headset, and a powerful, intuitive controller, and some amazing apps and experiences. All designed in concert and open and at the scale of Android. Now, Daydream arrives this fall, but you can get started developing for it today with the latest Android developer preview. And we'll go into that and more tomorrow here at 9 a.m. So that's it for VR and Android. To tell you about wearables in Android, I'd like to turn it over to David Singleton. Thanks.